Andrew Hazen, very nice to see you today. When was it that you first realized that you were a serial entrepreneur?
I'm thinking because I do own serialentrepreneurs.com, but I probably, came upon that realization sometime around 1998, 1999 when I was in law school.
So before that, what was your first job?
My first job was a paperboy for Newsday on Long Island. Grew up on the South Shore. And from there, I worked at Natlax, which was a clothing store, where I took Champion sweatshirts, which were back then maybe $40, $50, and I would bleach them with different designs and patterns in my parents' garage and sell them for $90 because they were, a different design. And then from Natlax, I worked at the Grateful Deli in Wantaw for a year or two, maybe a year. And then by 10th grade, this is all before 10th grade. And then by 10th grade, when I was about 15, I started working at Bagel Boss in Merrick when I was 15 or 16 years old. From there, I went to high school, college, and law school.
You founded one of the first digital marketing companies that was incredibly successful. I believe it went public. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. We didn't go public. We were acquired ultimately by a public company. So maybe through acquisition, we became public.
Hi.
But it's a company that I started in about 1998, 1999, when I had just started practicing law, which I wasn't too happy about, doing mortgage foreclosures, basically throwing people out of their houses.
Mm-hmm.
And, pretty early on, and I don't claim to be the pioneer, but definitely started with the pioneers and doing what was back then website optimization, now SEO, search engine optimization, and self-taught myself at law school. I was living in Michigan. Everyone was back in New York. When I didn't go to class for 3 hours a day, I was figuring out how to be number one in the search engines. This is before Google. This is Alta Vista, Lycos, Hotbot, Excite. And I taught myself this opportunity on how I could become number one in a search engine. And I knew right there and then, here I was in Michigan, and I was able to be number one out of 8 million results. And I just saw that I had to be involved in that industry. So I started that company in 98, 99, grew it to about 60, 65 people, and then was able to exit. First in 2007, we sold to a private equity group out of Chicago and a local investor who was a former NBC executive. And then 3 or 4 years later, we sold a second time to a public company, which was in about December 2011.
I think that's when I first met you, 2007. I remember coming into your office and being so amazed at everything that you had accomplished. Very impressive. You also have a nickname, the Domainer. Can you tell me how you sort of develop that name and
Sure.
what you do with these domains these days?
Sure. So my passion is in domain names. Some people buy physical real estate. I invest in domain names, which are .coms or digital real estate. And at my peak, I probably had maybe 4,000 domain names in my portfolio, which may seem like a lot, but I know people that own hundreds of thousands of domain names. And I started early on in 98, 99 when I was in law school, but I still kicked myself in the rear that I still wasn't registering what we'll call dictionary terms. So any word that you can find in a dictionary, which today would sell for 6 or 7 figures. And, over the course of the years, I've sold, random domain names for a few thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, $1 million. And I bought domain names for tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. But that's my passion. People like football, people like reading, people like fishing. I love domain names and finding the right one that I can actually build a business around.
Right. A different kind of real estate.
Correct. Because it defines you. When you own, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but when you own a longisland.com or you own, a category defining domain name, it kind of levels the playing field in so many ways and gives you so many advantages.
Right. So in 2007, all of that experience of basically selling a company, what sounds like twice, not just once, what did that experience do for you? What did you learn from it? How did it impact your life?
Well, I learned a lot, from a perspective of, I was definitely young. I'm 47 now. So back then I was certainly new. When the first time I heard the word EBITDA, I had no idea what it meant or the definition. I learned very quickly. So, I literally learned about negotiating and the value of a business, very quickly. Steve Rosenberg, the gentleman who first, I don't want to say found me, but sought me out to invest in the business, really taught me a tremendous amount, was a great mentor to me. But it was, also financially life-changing at a young age. 3 boys, family. So the financial freedom was great, but then it was figuring out what to do next. So, I try to take off a week or two, literally from closing. And I always say it was harder to be a parent than to run a business, with all the logistics, if you will.
Yes.
So, it got to a point where I was able to now focus, not that I didn't focus on what I enjoy doing, but also when I sold the business, I thought I had to start answering to people and investors and, starting to hit certain targets, and the business was no longer, I don't say not under my control, but it had a different destination because there was a much larger vision. They had acquired us and an ad network. So there was a much bigger vision of putting together a boutique search firm with a much larger ad network and, having the two, be a marriage. And they were in Arizona and I, of course, was in New York. So, so when I had that ability to finally step away, I was like, what do I want to be when I grow up? And wasn't pressured about worrying to make the next, living, paycheck to paycheck, which is interesting how I built the business, but gave me the opportunity to go ahead and start exploring what I really was passionate about.
Yeah, what an opportunity. Given the impact of social media today on our culture, how is social media impacting your family?
Yeah, I have 3 boys, 1 in college, 2 in high school. I see them on there, probably too much more time than I'd like for them to be on it, because I see it as, mostly a time suck or, no productivity being accomplished when you're on there, watching videos. There are ways to leverage it and utilize it. And I do see opportunities when that does happen. I have one son that does graphic design and social media for sports. He's in college. So he truly leverages, whether it's LinkedIn or Twitter, he's doing it from a strategy and business perspective, if you will, but watching, videos, mindless videos for hours. And I used to look at the, we're on this unlimited data plan, but when it used to come in and I would see I'm running a multi-million-dollar business on 4 gigs and my kids are using 20, 30, 40 gigs of data. And I don't comprehend that's even possible.
Right.
But, it's from live streaming or whatever they're watching. So I think it's dangerous. But they know how I feel. And, it's something that we have to live with, whether we like it or not. It's just a question of, like anything else, how you let it affect your life.
Yeah, thank you. We're all somewhat addicted to it. Recently read a book called Reset Your Child's Brain by Dr. Victoria Dunkley. And it's a very interesting book because it does speak to coming off it a bit and reorienting what life is really about, as opposed to just sort of looking at emails and trying to get whether or not somebody's looking for us. So it really is a unique time, I think, in our culture and in society. I'm Ellen Volpe, and we'll be right back after this break.
You're watching Opportunity Calls with Ellen Volpe, presented by ABA, American Business Associates. To learn more about ABA, visit aba-ny.com.
In 2014, you shook the world with Bobbleheads. I see that in 2015, you made the Inc. fastest growing companies. I think you were 74 in the country.
74 in New York. 74 in New York.
Oh, I thought it was reversed.
Oh, it might have been 74 in the country, 4 in New York, but we had we did well that year, yes.
Yes, exactly.
Great growth.
Yeah, I'm wondering what your life was like during that period of time, having so much growth in such a fun industry.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting story. I've been doing Bobbleheads for probably 15 years with my father. He comes from the promotional business. So when he was, transitioning out of that, probably at least 10 years ago, if not more, probably 12 years ago, we started doing bobbleheads, but we then had another partner that we had met, Stu, and we started doing custom bobbleheads. And, the explosive growth really came when we went on to Groupon. So we did one of these promotions where it was literally, you can get a bobblehead that's normally $150, $170 for $79.99. And we had forecasted about 2,500 orders, and I think we had gotten at least 15,000. So we literally were not able to produce them quick enough. It was actually a little bit damaging to the brand. Because today's, obviously this is probably 7, 8 years ago, right, with the ability not to deliver on time or the customer service. I mean, we really couldn't. It was your biggest, nightmare come true in a good way and a bad way, because we couldn't even field literally 700, 800 emails a day with inquiries or status reports. It was just very overwhelming. But like any good entrepreneur, we figured it out, we pivoted, we iterated, we got the right systems in place, the right process, the right people. And then, in 2014, we started getting licenses. So started acquiring licenses with the NHL, then the WWE, Betty Boop, Popeye, professional bull riding. And as a diehard Grateful Dead fan my whole life, was able to get the Grateful Dead license. And, we manufacture anywhere probably from 300 to 500,000 plus bobbleheads, a year. So, it's a different type of stress from the digital marketing company. My dad and I, our biggest stress is whether you're making a game day for a promotional giveaway, they're giving away 10,000 bobbleheads at a stadium, down to a wedding. It could be someone's bridal party, and they're waiting for the bobbleheads for the cake topper or the people in the party. So whether you're moving 100,000 or 10, it's kind of, I've learned logistics, not because I've wanted to, but because you had to. But it's a great business. I love, people have said to me, like, you sold your company, you can do anything. Why are you making dolls? Like, what are you making dolls for? But when people come to you, if you think about almost every major brand, as I look around my office, from Fruit Loops, every major cereal, every gas station, every tire company, a bobblehead has been made. And when people come to us, this week we're making bobbleheads of the grandson of Jim Beam, Fred No. We've done for Google, the founders of Salesforce, Jolly Green Giant, Pink Panther, 10,000 bobbleheads. So when someone comes to you with an idea, and we can then create it, and then you all of a sudden start to see on social media or on pictures your creation all over the place, I find that heartwarming. So, so that's been a fun venture, and working with my dad's great too. He's in his early 70s, and the ability to be able to work with him on projects and for him to understand the industry is a great thing.
It's a great gift. It's a great gift.
Yes, it is.
I'm wondering, who was the most interesting person you've ever done a likeness for?
Well, we make bobbleheads from 4 inches to life size. So we've actually made a life size Hulk Hogan bobblehead, 6 feet, 4 inches. And growing up, I was a big WWF at the time wrestling fan. So my bar mitzvah theme was like WrestleMania in 1986. So to be able to make bobbleheads of Hulk Hogan for his restaurant in Florida, again, was like, a dream come true. So that was interesting. But we've made, a lot of entertainers, Michael Jackson, little Uzi Vert with face tattoos and piercings, to famous dogs that have 3 million followers on Instagram. No joke. We've made, so that's why I love the challenge. People say, can you make this? And we say, of course, we can pretty much make anything. And, some really take off, and, we can sell tens of thousands of units of a great design.
That's fantastic. So when did you realize that the pandemic was going to put a crimp in your style in terms of being able to deliver for some of these major events?
Yeah, so those that do business overseas know with Chinese New Year, which is typically, end of January, beginning of February, I was just wrapping up a couple of trade shows in Vegas. I was at Sports Licensing and Tailgate, and I started to see at our factories overseas that people weren't coming back from Chinese New Year's, or that the pandemic was starting to impact the people that we work with overseas. So I kind of knew something was up when they started saying that they couldn't deliver, or they couldn't leave their towns to get back to the areas of the factory. So that was probably February or March. So even before we shut down, my productions were getting shut down. Mm-hmm. And then as we were really tightening up here, everything was kind of loosening up overseas. And they were like, all right, we're ready for orders. Mm-hmm. I'm like, there's no games, there's no giveaways, there's no one's going out in public. But I started to see a shift. So that business dropped, dramatically, drastically. But more people are home shopping. So the license sales of people buying, for themselves as fans, or gift giving, people were buying more of the onesie twosies, if you will, versus the promotional side. But that business got hit pretty hard. We had, one MLB order for like 18,000 pieces that they had to cancel before we went to production because they weren't going to have the game.
Wow. We'll be right back after this break.
American Business Associates is New York Metro's premier business development and networking association. To learn more about ABA, visit aba-ny.com.
From bobbleheads to bagels, I know that bagels are close to your heart and that you've been involved for quite some time. And I'm wondering if you could share with us what that pivot looked like and what is going on with bagels today.
Sure. So as we were discussing earlier, the bobblehead business was devastated by COVID and the pandemic. And years ago, about 8 or 10 years ago, I registered the domain name bagelofthemonth.com. And I mentioned that I grew up working at Bagel Boss in 10th grade. My friend Adam Rosner was the owner at the time of that second location. He's 8 years older than me, so he was like 23. He was very young. And as the business grew, I said, there's a fruit of the month, there's a wine of the month. This is back before the internet. This is like Harry and David's catalog. I said, we got to do a Bagel of the Month club. And he said, yeah, I'll fulfill the orders if you can bring them in. So I launched the business probably about 6 years ago. It was doing okay. It was like a low six-figure business. It was kind of on autopilot, had typical hiccups with it. And like other things picked up. I did the acquisition of longisland.com. I was doing Launchpad. A lot of things were going on. So it was just okay. And then when COVID hit and our business was devastated, as I said, Adam had just sold his Queen store with his son, Alex. Adam's fifth generation, Alex's sixth generation Bagel Bialy baker. And I said, what are you guys doing now? And he goes, well, Alex is probably going to start shipping bagels out of Hewlett, my brother's store. And I said, wait a second, we have Bagel of the Month Club. Let's reboot it. And now would be the perfect time. You don't have to lay off people at the stores. We can figure out the supply chain. The stores can make product for us. This will be fantastic. And we hustled. We redid the website, started doing some marketing. Alex was working on it full time with me. And we literally launched probably in about end of March, beginning of April. And that business shot up over 2,000%. On great days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when we're shipping, we were shipping 5,000 to 10,000 bagels every day across the entire country, Chicago, Texas, Hawaii, Alaska. And then we hired a PR firm, and then we started working on some different marketing angles. But I really did a pivot. I've been coming to the office 7 days a week since COVID, no exaggeration, even to today. I mean, I don't know if it's Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I wake up and I come,
It's Groundhog Day.
It is. But it's been phenomenal because, people can't travel. They're at home. They want to send a gift to their loved ones. Kids are in school right now. They want to send them something. People missing like their grandchildren's baby, a baby being born and sending mini bagels just for teething. I mean, it's really amazing the reach that we've had. And I don't really see it slowing down, quite honestly. So we're looking to expand the business. I've gotten more involved with the Bagel Boss brand. And we're looking to go from 13 stores, to way more across the country.
Wow, that is quite a story. Tell me what your favorite bagel is.
My favorite bagel is probably an everything bagel with scallion cream cheese and cucumber.
Yummy. What excites you most about that business right now? I mean, it seems like it's exploding, and what's not to like about it, but is there some vision that you have that sort of is the underline or the dotting of the I and the crossing of the T for you?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you first what I don't like. I don't like looking at pictures of bagels all day because it makes me hungry. That I'll tell you. But I really think the bagel industry hasn't been disrupted in a number of years. The only disruption, if you will, in my opinion, has probably been Bantam Bagels, which was on Shark Tank with the cream cheese filled, bagel holes. But being a domainer, we own some great domains. I own everythingbagels.com, sesamebagel.com, cinnamoraisinbagel.com. We own challah we own pizzabagels.com. So I see some opportunities for us to really, leverage, like even bagel chips is a big industry. We own bagelchips.com, and we have the Bagel Boss bagel chips. So I see it being, an outsider, but an insider, because I think my success has always been that I know all facets of the business from the ground up. So with the bagels, I think now as a marketer, I think we can totally leverage what typical bagel store owners aren't thinking about. And that's what really excites me is, having 50, 100, 300 locations and leveraging an app and, supply chain and logistics that, no one's really doing so far.
That's a lot of bagels, my friend.
It is.
So when you're not doing bagels, one of the things I think that we have for us as Long Islanders is longisland.com.
Yes.
And there are so many wonderful places on Long Island, and not one particular resource that puts us in touch with those places. And I know you're working hard on it. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that venture.
Sure. It's one of my most challenging projects because it's so enormous. Back when I sold my business in 2007, 2008, I had the opportunity to bid and purchase or bid on the purchase of longisland.com, which I lost. I lost it was a silent auction. I put in a bid and I got outbid. So life went on. And 8 years later at a Launchpad event in Huntington, the gentleman who purchased it at the auction approached me 8 years later and said, "Hey, would you still be interested in longisland.com?" And like a kid in the candy stores, I threw out for the same price that I wanted to buy it in 2008, which he said, "No, it's going to cost you a lot more than that." But, how do you, living on Long Island, the beauty of it, the assets, the location, the food, the entertainment, the views. So, and the portfolio, the domain portfolio is probably 400 plus Long Island, from Long Island restaurants, Long Island wedding. You name it, we probably own it as it relates to Long Island. And in terms of traffic, so now I put on my publishing hat, and we have some, I think we're like the third most visited website, on Long Island. And the search traffic, being a search guy, if you type in Long Island Railroad schedule, ferry schedule, Long Island restaurants, anything Long Island related, we're ranking in the top, 6, 7 organically. So just the free organic traffic coming in. So again, going back to digital real estate, when I look at this portfolio, Long Island wineries, Long Island schools, Long Island colleges, we own a massive portfolio. And COVID hit that, affected that business also. If you're a catering hall or indoor rock climbing or trampoline place, they were all shut down. So we've worked with them, and we've actually have come up with packages and plans and gone extra above board to help drive foot traffic or web traffic or eyeballs or clicks to the businesses. And I really think to some degree, I brought a different, value to the business in terms of, we talked about social media, email marketing. We're doing things in the last year or two since we've taken over that they weren't doing in the past. So, there's been some tremendous lift immediately. Instead of doing an email blast on Fridays, we're doing them now daily. And that list is growing. And all the merchants on Long Island and the consumers are appreciative. There was one day we were so busy that people were actually emailing us, asking us if there was a problem because they didn't get the longisland.com newsletter. No. And I was excited about that. I'm like, wow, people are actually, reading it, and sending it to tens and tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people. Our social media reach is over, well over 100,000. So it's exciting. My goal for that is to, take us from 25 to 50,000 unique visitors a day to, getting to 500,000, unique visitors a day. So it's a, big challenge. We're working on a lot of content and working with our current situation, which is COVID, of course. But we do see some, we see advertisers coming back. There's no shortage of content. We've definitely seen a lift in traffic because more people are home or they don't want paper and print or in circulation. So, they're quick to grab their phone, their device, and, hit us up for places to go and things to do.
Yeah, exactly. I look at it as an economic driver, and the opportunities exist not only for the consumer, but for the business people looking to be found. It's a tremendous opportunity for everybody. And the more people get to use it, the more opportunities there'll be. And I'm just wondering, given your experience with so many different opportunities, I'm sure they weren't all a cakewalk, and I'm sure that some of them probably gave you more agita than you expected. Andrew, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs on taking risk and opportunities?
I think when people tell you that you're crazy or it can't be done, that's a great opportunity to make something happen. Surround yourself with a great team and people that could leverage their experience to help you figure out the things that you don't know. Don't be afraid to admit that you don't know what you don't know so that you can learn. But I also just, it's almost like, putting out a minimal viable product, an MVP. Just don't be afraid. Just put out validate something. I was talking to somebody recently about doing a subscription-based business, like a Bagel of the Month, and they were getting all concerned about product. I said, wait, take a step back. Think about who you know that has product. Think about it. I'm shipping 20,000 bagels a week. I don't even own a bagel store, right? So, leverage the network. See who has opportunities or synergies that you could take your idea and just take a little bit of mitigate your risk and validate that it's real. And then once it works and it's real, then you can take further steps to get your own. Maybe it's worthwhile to spend more money in the beginning just to validate it works before you roll it out. But I hate hearing stories about people that have inventory that they can't sell, or they've ordered a product that their parents and family told them was amazing and nobody will buy it. Today's age with going onto Facebook and targeting people, age, demo, their interest, getting an influencer on Instagram or TikTok. I mean, my 14-year-old son made a video of Bagel Boss, and in 3 days, we got 300,000 views on that video. So, or take bagels like we do, which, will cost us $50 to $100, and send it to somebody with 2 million to 5 million followers and ask them to do a review for you. So just figure out your network, your opportunities, which if they're listening to this or know you, then they've got, that's a no-brainer. And then just figure out if they have an idea who can help them or what they can do to validate it with, not exposing themselves too much.
Try it out, right? So one last question about your philanthropy.
Yes.
What causes inspire you these days, given so many issues that are facing us globally and nationally, locally? Which ones are inspiring you these days?
Yeah, I mean, the two that I've been involved with are two that I've been involved with for years. So it's Kids with Cancer, St. Jude, Memorial Sloan Kettering, and Rock and Roll, which is a nonprofit food hunger organization here on Long Island. So I've sat on the digital advisory board at St. Jude Hospital down in Tennessee and worked with Amy Holtzman, the founder here on Long Island, for Rock and Roll. So again, leveraging whether it's digital media, people that I know with physical locations for drop-off points, but just figuring out ways to help, that's amazing. And I've seen, a lot raised for St. Jude. Amy's doing tremendous things for Rock and Roll. When you get tractor trailer loads of turkeys donated or someone donates a check anonymously, it really means a lot. So, fighting hunger, which is a major problem, even though we live in Long Island, which is like Disney World compared to the rest of the world, and fighting cancer for kids.
Yeah, thank you so much. You're an inspiration. And I just want to thank you for joining me today. I'm always a fan of yours. And I think I'm just going to go get a bagel now.
You got it. Well, go to bagelofthemonth.com or bagelboss.com and you'll be sure to get it tomorrow.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Ellen. I appreciate it.
You're watching Opportunity Calls with Ellen Volpe, presented by ABA, American Business Associates. To learn more about ABA, visit aba-ny.com.